Hey friends, welcome to the part 40. We are looking at some of the real questions. Click the join button below or use the link in the description to become a Cloud Kernel member. Why? Why? Because the way the channel is structured, you will have some free content, you will have some paid content together. My friend, together it will increase your chances to clear the certification. Okay, by now I hope you have subscribed. By the way, we have uploaded part 39 in the Cloud Kernel members area, so do join, become a member and gain access to all of those content. Let's proceed with the questions. See, we will only operate based on common sense. So how do we use our common sense? You see this example here. They are saying they are having downloadable historical performance reports. Now in the AWS world, where do we store these reports? We store these reports in S3 bucket, my friend. These are all stored in AWS S3. S3, what is S3? S3 is an object store. Okay, so where do you see S3? We see S3 only option A. Now some might say, people who have vision problem, they might say, hey, this is S3. No, this is Route 53 used for routing. So your reports, thumb rule, always remember we store it in S3. So S3 has to be an option. Now why do we use CloudFront? Because you need fastest response time. So CloudFront is also used for applications like Netflix. It gives very fast performance. Why? Any guess why? The reason is that it does not use the internet for sending the data. What it does is AWS has its own dedicated private network. CloudFront leverages that. It's called Edge. So it also makes use of edge computing. So it computes very close uh, to where the data producer is. Okay. Now DynamoDB is used for building applications like Uber. You need very high performance. Uber, like, they need database on steroids. So DynamoDB is like a database which has taken Viagra. It will perform, man, high performance. And C is talking about EC2. Okay, so we never store reports on EC2. We do not store it on block store. So this is of no use. So this would be my final answer. Now let us look at this next question. So this is an interesting question. So what happens is you have an application. Okay, so I will draw this for you. You have an application, and this application is uh, putting or using data from this bucket here, S3 bucket. Okay, now what the company is saying, boss, please use CloudFront. Who is saying that? Company is saying that. Where? Here they are saying please use CloudFront. So we have to use CloudFront. Okay, because of high performance and so on, they want us to use it. Plus what they are saying is, if in S3 buckets, uh, I can generate a link and give you the link, and you can straight away go to that bucket and access my files. The company is saying do not allow that. I repeat, company is saying do not allow that. Okay, so if that is the case, this is a very good example where you have to use OAI. Again, there can be different ways to do certain things. You can create a custom solution, but cloud certifications, AWS is not interested in how intelligent you are creating your own custom solution and creating your own product. They don't want that. They want you to be users of the AWS platform. Let us look at OAI. This is exactly what our question wants. It will restrict access to S3 only. origin. And there are two ways, by the way. OAC, not OAC. In our Indian politics, there is a gentleman called OAC. This is OAC. And here we have OAI. Okay, there are two ways to do that. And AWS says use OAC wherever possible. Okay, just like a mother has two sons, and if a mother says, you know what, my both sons are great, but by the way, my younger son is better than the elder son, probably something of that sort. So this is what AWS does. So the moment when AWS itself recommends one product over the other, so it becomes a bit of a bias. The option D would fit the bill because they would leverage OAI. They would configure the bucket permissions such that uh, only the OAI will have read permission. So this works perfectly. Why? Because it says do not want the files to be accessible through direct navigation. So it caters to this requirement. The problem with A is it is telling you to write individual policies. So imagine if you have 10,000 users and you are supposed to write policies. So it will be so time consuming and not a feasible solution, right? So A is wrong. It does not seem feasible. B says that you create a IAM user, you grant the user read permission to S3 object and assign the user to CloudFront. But B is telling only about one IAM user. What about other users if they want to access it? Somehow it does not address that piece of the problem. And C is telling you write S3 bucket policy that assigns distribution ID as principal and assigns the S3 bucket as Amazon ARN. Okay, so here CloudFront distribution ID. So you can like CloudFront distribution tells CloudFront where you want your content to be delivered, and the moment that happens, an ID is generated for the distribution. So that is different, and that is not something which will work here because you are trying to push a solution through customization. So this would be my final answer. So the thumb rule is straight cut. In such scenarios, you are forced to use CloudFront distribution, then it has to be through OAI. So let us look at this next question. By the way, we have uploaded part 39 in the cloud kernel members area. Please join and become a member. The link is in the description. You will need both paid and free content to clear the certification. So free content alone may not help you cross that line. Okay. See, in this question, this is the next one. What happens is, see, you have an application. It's a simple question, and it is so repeated kind of stuff. Not the entire question itself, but you always have an application. You have it on EC2 instance. You have it on multiple AZs. The instance they are running on auto scaling group behind the load balancer. Okay, that's perfectly fine. So it's like um, in terms of diagram, you see this box, this big box, this big box. This is ALB. The three small boxes, these are EC2 instances, and your EC2 instances, they have applications running on those EC2 instances. Okay, so the application performs best when CPU utilization of EC2 instances is 40%. Okay, so the application is performing fine if this is utilized to 40%. Same for this, all three, each utilized for 40% each. What should a solution architect do to maintain the desired performance across all instances in the group? Okay, so you have to maintain the performance first. You are now married, you have to perform. Enough of paper trading. Now you have to come out of your net practice. You have to play the actual match. So option A says that, hey, let's use simple scaling policy. What is simple scaling? See, you can scale based on a metric value. Okay, but you see this line here. They say, boss, if you want to scale based on metric like CPU utilization, you should use target tracking scaling policy. So this is target tracking. That means based on a metric. In our case, the metric is CPU utilization. You see this CPU utilization. This is the metric. So here what we have to do, based on the metric only, we will have to scale because we have to maintain our performance, right? So we have to scale. So the moment it crosses 40%, we will use target tracking policy and we'll say, hey, now it is crossing 40%. Let's create one more EC2 instance. Okay, something of that sort. So uh, so this should be the answer. And simple tracking, we already saw the documentation says don't use it. So simple tracking, hey, focus on this, focus on this. Simple tracking, never use it in the certification exam because the documentation says use target tracking for metric based triggering of the auto scaling stuff. Now C is telling I'll use lambda function. Again, you are creating a custom solution. When AWS has given you target tracking policy, do not try to be intelligent and create your own solution using Lambda. Okay. Then you have something like a scheduled scaling action. What is scheduled scaling action? Like, for example, at 9 p.m., a very big load runs. So before that, you will scale up. At 9 p.m. you will spawn so many EC2 instances so that it is scheduled. The moment load comes, you are ready, man, for performance, high performance. So this is the final answer. So you can wait for some more time, say 3 more months, because a layoff list has been created. So let's wait till your name appears in that list for not, upskilling. So this brings us to the end of part 40. Okay, the paid content can be taken from the Cloud Kernel members zone. You can click the link in the description to become a Cloud Kernel member. Stay tuned, stay focused. The next part 41, will again be published for Cloud Kernel members and Cloud Ninja members only.